Welcome to the On Your Side podcast. I'm Gary Harper.
And I'm Susan Campbell.
I had a nice drive in today.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Good commute?
Well, for a change, yeah. I was expecting it to be really congested, and it was. But, I mean, by Phoenix standards, it wasn't too bad.
We're getting into the summertime.
Yeah.
Deal.
I can really tell year after year when school lets out, I have no idea why. I don't know why the freeways would be less congested when school lets out for the summer. Why is that, do you think?
I don't know.
These kiddos are not taking the freeway to school.
I don't know.
I have no idea.
Everybody's on summer break with their kids, maybe.
Summer vacation, something like that, yeah. Are you? Oh, yeah, I asked you last time, a vacation. Yeah, you've got to go see the family.
I just booked the flights.
Oh, good deal?
Not a bad deal.
Okay.
I was actually kind of pleasantly surprised that it wasn't $1 million.
You're okay.
Yeah, we're gonna make it work.
Yeah.
It's still more than I want to pay. I'm cheap. You know that about me.
Yeah. No, you're not cheap. You're just frugal, as I like to
Sure.
say. I mean, we all like to kind of like watch where our money goes. That's why we do what we do. We like to save people money and do the best we can to help out in that aspect.
That's the goal.
Any regrets? That's what we're talking about today. Regrets with your home. So tell me about your house. You don't have to explain, describe it, but any regrets at all about your house?
So I think if I had to go back in time, I would have asked the buyer for more money toward a new air conditioner because our air conditioner unit is very, very, very old.
Yeah.
And I am just dreading the day when it goes because I know that's going to be an expense I don't want to pay. I think the other, we really wanted a nice backyard. Our kids love to play in the grass, and we have a swing set outside. But we're very close to neighbors still, kind of classic Arizona backyard. I think I would have searched harder for maybe a little bit more privacy. I didn't realize how much I really valued that privacy.
What was the one thing that kind of you said, "Wow, I love this house. Let's get it."
I walked in and there is this room. It's like a loft on the second floor that I was like, this is going to be the kids' playroom. I'm going to be able to put all the toys up there. They're never going to be out on the first floor. I'm never going to have to see them. I'm never going to trip over them. You know, I'm sure
Out
where
of
that
sight,
goes.
out of sight, out of mind, and it did not work, did it?
They have a lot of toys in the toy room and a lot of toys everywhere else.
Just can't seem to keep it up there in the loft.
Yeah.
I guess my regret with my home is it's probably, we've owned a lot of homes, and it's the one that we've lived in the longest and the one we like the least.
Oh.
If that makes sense.
What's the one thing that you're like, this has to change?
It's a 2-story. Okay. I'm not into 2 stories.
Okay.
Empty nesters. I'm not into stairs. I mean, I'm not at that point where I need the little. Have you seen the commercial with the little chair lift goes around and takes you upstairs? But yeah, it's just
So you thought you were going to be able to get over the stairs thing when you were looking. You're like, oh, that's not that big of a deal.
Right.
And then you live in there and you're like, oh, wait, this is a big deal.
This is how big of a deal it is. It's like if I leave my phone upstairs or if I leave something, it's up there until I have a reason that I have to go back up there.
So that's why you're ignoring my phone calls and text messages. I have all these work questions and Gary's just leaving me hanging.
I forgot the phone upstairs probably. Yeah, unless my wife is up there and then I'll yell up there to say, hey, when you come down, bring whatever it is I forgot, like my phone. But anyway, that's what we're talking about. Home regrets.
Oh, gosh.
Remember the tattoo, no regrets?
Oopsies.
And the guy got no regrets.
Yeah.
Oh,
we have to find that somewhere, a photo of it.
That's a regret. Oh,
yes.
Bad tattoo. Hey, today we're talking to Mark Hamrick. He's with Bankrate, and Bankrate did a little survey with people and their home buying regrets. Mark, how are you today?
Doing well. Good to see you both. Good to be with you.
Yeah, thanks for being on the On Your Side podcast. Mark, I have to ask you, do you own your home, and do you have any regrets?
We've owned our current home for about 25 years, and we've stayed here for a good long while. So no, I think I'm actually very happy with our home ownership experience. We did a lot of renovations of the home in the last 4 years, and so if anything, I hope that I have a substantial amount of time still to spend in this home because we've kind of gotten it to where we want to have it. And We were very fortunate in the sense that we live outside the Washington, D.C. area. I grew up in the Midwest. My wife is from Niagara Falls, New York. Those communities have not enjoyed the same home price appreciation that we have had in this area, where the home is worth a lot more now than it was when we purchased. And, that only does you so much good. For example, if you want to draw a home equity line of credit or another line of credit based on the value of your home. But it turns out that home ownership is the primary path of wealth creation in the United States. We can debate whether that's a good or a bad thing. So, I'm very happy with the status of my home ownership. I love the house. My wife and I are here. Our son moved away to the West Coast a long time ago, but, we're very pleased.
So Bankrate did a survey about any regrets that homeowners may have. What did you discover?
First of all, let's think about the fact that about half of the American public is in a home that they own, their family owns, or they own it as individuals. And then what we found is that, and I think, Susan sort of, I think, characterized this in a way that's consistent and parallel with the survey. What might we do again or do over if we were engaged in that transaction, knowing what we know today versus what perhaps we didn't know back then? And I think that's sort of the way the survey presents itself. And so 45% of homeowners have at least one financial regret. They may have more than one. And the primary regret that they have, the number one issue that they cite, is the cost of maintenance, as well as other so-called hidden costs or surprising costs. And, part of this is just, life happens. We learn about a lot of things that we didn't need to know about in the past. And so if you're in a home for a considerable amount of time in this high inflation, elevated price environment, those costs can catch you by surprise. But it's not just sort of those kinds of costs that might be replacing the HVAC, the fridge, the roof, calling the plumber. It also can be, as we all know, the dynamics that have really sort of emerged in recent years, the rising cost of insurance, as well as the rising cost of property taxes. And very often people are singularly focused on sort of the home loan cost of the equation, but you have these other things that are very much top of mind and can really lean on your pocketbook, so to speak.
I think going into buying a home, you obviously know there's going to be maintenance. I'm responsible for all of this stuff. And, even if you've been a renter for a long time, when you call the landlord that somebody's paying for this. So you kind of have this idea. But I think there are so many times when something comes up and you're like, what in the world? Like today, my husband, it's his weekend. He's off work and he's probably been at Home Depot 3 different times because there are these little itsy bitsy things. Like our kid broke the toilet seat last night. So he had to go buy a new toilet seat, right?
Yeah.
Or a cover.
Yeah.
And then we have these other things like ants were getting into this little itsy bitsy crack near our kitchen window. So we had to go get the stucco to re-stucco that. But that means you have to buy the paint that matches the house.
Yes.
So that's another, and those are those little things that like, how in the world do you actually factor that into the monthly budget?
Yeah. Well, the good thing with your example, though, those are kind of the smaller prices. But when you have the bigger ones, like your refrigerator goes out or your roof is leaking from the latest rain, which we don't seem to really have around here. But let me ask you, Mark, from what you can gather, are homeowners, when they get into a home, are they just not putting the pencil to the paper, as I like to say, and kind of adding things up? I mean, so many people are just like focused on maybe the price of the house, the price of the house, the price of the house, and they don't get down to the nitty gritty with how much is really going to cost them every month.
I think this is one of those things that many people just have to learn through experience. I haven't really talked to, for example, our 33-year-old son that much about sort of the process of owning a home. And he has an MBA. We could talk about those things, but it just, you've got other things that you're typically focused on. And, the Bankrate surveys, I think, as Susan knows, have consistently shown over the years that we are a paycheck to paycheck nation. The majority of Americans cannot pay an emergency expense of $1,000 or more from their savings, and that means they have to lean on something else. And, it doesn't take much to have that extent of a cost when you are a homeowner. You could knock that out with a refrigerator in no time, if you're buying at that level.
I recently read an article, and this is spot on with today's topic. It was new time or first time home buyers, I should say. They bought the home. They were very happy. They moved in, and after they paid everything, like the mortgage, groceries, the electric bill, the gas bill, the trash bill, everything, they had $200 at the end of the month, which is called being house poor. I mean, you're basically working every hour just to afford your home payment and other things.
That's a totally different podcast topic, but that's because lenders are approving people for way more than than people should be comfortable paying.
And shame on them if they're doing that, but also shame on the people who are getting into a home and all they see is, oh, my friends and family are going to be so impressed. Yeah. But when it comes to paying the bills every month,
they keep coming.
That little anecdote that I gave, Mark, I think that sums it up for a lot of Americans. A lot of Americans are just house poor.
Well, I don't have data of that type, but I'll go back to the living paycheck to paycheck piece of it. And then there's the question about how much of that is on us to literally own solving that problem. And, we know that the number one economic issue in recent times has been inflation. People are concerned about the ongoing dynamics of the job market. Will it remain as relatively robust as it has? And we are, frankly, a country that is not ranking highly when it comes to financial literacy. The data shows that as well. And let's face it, as you said at the outset, the ownership of a home is typically the result of the most expensive transactions that we will engage in our lifetime. And so how much do we know about that going in? So that's really the reason for the survey. That is, aside from just educating people, it is to say, learn from what other people are experiencing and don't be among those people who are not prioritizing saving. I know it can be a heavy lift, but the worst thing is to have to lean on credit card interest rates when those average for the best qualified new users still above 20% on an annualized basis.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
So not all doom and gloom though here. People have regrets about the home that they currently live in, but a lot of them say they'd still do it all over again. They would still walk in, sign those papers, and get that mortgage, right?
Yeah, and that's why I want to say that that's really more about wishing to talk to one's 25-year-old or 35-year-old self, if indeed they're more senior than that, and to know the lessons that life has given them. And to your point, the survey finds that 70% of homeowners, given the opportunity to buy the same home again, would do it again. 17% say no, and this is an interesting number. 13% say they don't know, which I'm always amazed by the don't know answers. Like, well, why don't you know?
Yeah.
Maybe it just takes too much thought. But
right.
Yeah, I think between the primary path toward wealth creation in the United States that homeownership is, and the fact that it is still associated more than anything else with the American dream, there's plenty of reasons for people to aspire to this, but we just want to make sure that it's a constructive or positive experience for them by paying attention to some of the, let's say, yellow flags in the survey.
Your survey did cover a lot of different categories with regrets. Tell us some other regrets that homeowners have with the purchase of their home.
A lot of them involve essentially the size of the home. We had that 21% bought too small of a home. Maybe they've sort of outgrown it, but they're maybe trapped because mortgage rates are still in the high 6% range for a 30-year fixed on average nationally. Then we had some that said, well, the home is too big. So they bought it too large of a house. Maybe it could have been back in the COVID days when we thought we'd never leave our homes again. 15% said they overpaid. And here's one that really gets my proverbial goat, and that is they didn't get the best interest rate. Now, there can be a couple of reasons for that. Number one is they could have a low credit score reflective of a poor payment history, keeping up with one's bills, or they didn't shop around for the best rate. And that's the one that is essentially inexcusable because we live in an information-rich world. Bankrate.com helps people know what the rates average and what the rates are that are available out there. And so we don't want people to be among those 10% that say, I didn't get the best rate. We want them to sort of stay ahead of the right place in that curve.
Hey, let's stay on that topic for just a bit to make sure that you are getting the best interest rate. You'd indicated to shop around. Now, when you shop around, you don't want to give every mortgage company authority to give a credit check. I mean, right? Because it's gonna ding your credit every time they do it. So can you shop around without and just give them the information without them actually having to verify in a credit report? Because if you shop around 5 different mortgage companies, you don't want 5 different credit reports being pulled.
Well, I think that's right. But, there is pretty good transparency on what those rates should be. And so you begin with who is sort of indicating that they can give you a good offer. And then what I would say is once you think you're close to that position, when you're ready to sort of move forward on either shopping for the home with some high degree of seriousness, is to get pre-approved for the mortgage, because in an environment that we have experienced in recent years, it may be shifting as we speak, where it is a seller's market, not a buyer's market. You want to go in sort of certified as a well-qualified buyer. So yeah, you don't want to damage your credit by getting too many credit reports pulled. I don't think most people are probably going to fall into that trap. I think if anything, they're going to fall into the trap of not doing enough homework.
The one category that I find surprising, I kind of do and I kind of don't, but people regretting that their house is too big. Because a lot of people would say, oh, my goodness, I mean, a nice, beautiful, spacious home would be really nice. But, the first thing that comes to my mind is the cleaning. Yes. And I always think to myself, if I'm looking at property, wow, these are a lot of windows to clean. This is a lot of floor to mop or whatever it might be.
Yeah. When we moved from Rhode Island to Arizona, we almost doubled the size of our house. Mm-hmm. And that was a shock to the system when the cleaning, started. It was like, oh my goodness, this is a lot.
Yes. So when you say, I regret it because my house is too big, it's like, what? How can that be?
No, just the cleaning.
The cleaning alone. All right. Hey, listen, Mark, thanks so much for being on the On Your Side podcast. If people want to find out more about you or they want to find out more about the survey, where do they go?
Bankrate.com is the #1 place, and we'll be happy to have people check out all of the great trusted free content on our website.
Yeah, before I let you go, I mean, you've got like all kinds of information, like mortgage rates, credit cards, all that stuff.
We've been around since 1976, pre-internet, and we've been surveying rates all over that time. And so whether it's borrowing or saving, we've got it covered.
And let me add that if you're out there looking for a house, Bankrate has a mortgage calculator that you should be able to get right within a few pennies of what your mortgage payment is going to be, so there's no surprises, right?
Absolutely. That's a great tool to have the appropriate expectation about what your costs may or will be.
Yeah. All right. Hey, thanks so much. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
The On Your Side podcast is produced by Brad Denny. Our audio engineer and editor is Todd Martin. Segment producer is Colin Stanton. And I'm Gary Harper.
And I'm Susan Campbell. If you have a problem you can't resolve, maybe we can't, send us a message through azfamily.com or our AZ Family mobile app. Look for the On Your Side section and leave us a message. Thanks so much for listening to the On Your Side podcast. And if you like it, leave us a review. We'll see you next week.
On Your Side is on Good Morning Arizona every weekday morning at 6:45 and 7 o'clock. And every weekday evening on Good Evening Arizona at 4 and 5 o'clock. You can also catch it on Arizona's Family News at 9 on 3TV every weeknight.